know trilogies can be intimidating. I get it 100%, but they don't have to be. Y'all see him? Look how cute. Hey buddy, what are you doing? He loves sitting up there, like, because it overlooks the front yard. There's like a big window, of course you can see it, but he loves looking, see? He's so cute. What's up guys, and happy new year. This is my first vlog that I'm actually recording in the new year. I'm gonna overlook all of this behind me. We are remodeling, and so this bookshelf has been put on the back burner because of that. It'll get done eventually, but yeah, I have a lot of books back there. If you stay to the end of this video, I am going to go over a series that I've just read. No affiliation with the author, but I loved it so much I was going to share it with y'all. If you are new here, hi, my name is Jessica Whaley. I am a full-time romance author. I write cowboy romances under Jessica Whaley, and then I write paranormal dark romances under a pen name Marlee Cross. All of that is linked down below. All my books are on Kindle Unlimited. That's not what this video is going to be about. I just would like to let you know in case you're new here. A little update so far. Book 2 of Lady of the Moon trilogy is gone to my editor. I will be revealing the cover, title, and release date on February the 24th on my Instagrams and socials. I don't know how early it'll get here, but on Instagram it'll be there. I've started book 3 and I'm writing on it. I thought maybe it's a good time for me to sit down and talk to you about how you can write your own trilogy. So I've already finished a series under Jessica Whaley. Not technically a trilogy, but it's a 3-book series. It's interconnected. So that's already out. It's the Maple series. And then I have Lady of the Moon trilogy, which is what I'm working on now. And I thought it'd be cool to sit down and do a little how-to video on how you can write your own trilogy. I know trilogies can be intimidating. I get it 100%, but they don't have to be. If you go in with a plan and a structure, then you don't stress yourself out, at least as much. It's still hard. It's still, it takes discipline and really sitting down. But the planning it part is what we're going to talk about today. If you can plan your trilogy out, then you should have no problem. Disclaimer here. When I say you should have no problems, it means you should know where you're heading. If you know where you're heading, then you know what to write. Now, I can't put your fingers on the keyboard and make you write. That's all up to you. But I can give you how I structure everything out, so it can be easier on you. I am a romance author. That does not mean that this won't work for you if you're not a romance author. I'm going to make it very vague in the forms of genre. I will add in there like when you should be thinking about the romance part of it, but if you don't write romance, you can take that part out or use it and throw a little twist in your story. That's all up to you, but I'm going to talk about it in a way that it works for everybody, or it can work for everybody. You may have to change some stuff, but ultimately this structure should help you either way. Okay, let's talk about the difference between a standalone and a trilogy. You can skip through this part if you would like, if you are a seasoned author or someone who isn't writing their first book. But if you are writing your first book, a standalone versus a trilogy. A standalone is one complete story, which is why it's called a standalone. So that means that book can stand by itself. It doesn't have to have other books to finish out the story. Whereas a trilogy or an interconnected series, those books work together, so to complete the whole story and to get to the happily ever after, or however you want to end your book. A trilogy is one big story told in 3 different acts. Each book must be satisfying on its own, but still push the larger arc of the whole plot and the story, and to get to your ending that you want. So think about it this way. Book 1 should be your setup and your hook, your world building. You're bringing in your characters, you're giving your readers something to look forward to, want answers to. Book 2 is escalation plus complication. So book 2 gets a little more chaotic. It gets a little more depth to it. It gets a little more, I like mine to be plot driven. So there is romance in it, but it's more, we're finding out more to this story. It's the meat of everything that's going on. And book 3 is your payoff and your resolution. So your readers have, they read through book 1 and they read through book 2. Book 3 should be where the beginning might not be as much resolution, you're heading that way. Like, they are getting answers, they are getting, you know, full circle relationships, they can feel the happily ever after coming. If you write romance, they can feel the payoff coming for the other two books, especially since trilogies more times than not end on cliffhangers, the first book and the second book. That's very common because you want to keep your readers engaged the whole way through. You want them to know, oh my gosh, like, what happens next? I know in book 1 of Lady of the Moon, I ended it on a cliffhanger, and I had so many people in my DMs saying, I need book 2 now, what's happening to her? And then in book 2 is a much bigger and more epic cliffhanger, and I'm just expecting the same reaction because it's a lot bigger, on a bigger scale. And so that's what you want out of book 1 and book 2. And then book 3 is the payoff. They know they're going to get their happily ever after. They know they're going to get the answers to, you know, the questions they have from book 1 and book 2. So I don't necessarily think of trilogies, or at least my trilogy, as 3 separate books. I think of it as one big story with 3 separate peaks. Or, you know, we go into this, we go up, and we have a little bit of a climax, and we get a little bit of a resolution, but not much. But then something happens, and the stakes are back again. And then we go up, and then we get a little bit of resolution, and then something else happens. Well, then in your third book, you want to go up to your big climax, your resolution to what's happening, and then your happily ever after. Okay, so don't look at me crazy for saying this, but the first thing you should do is know how your story is going to end. Yes, you need to know how your story is going to end. That's the biggest part, because you don't know where you're going in the other parts of your story if you don't know how it's going to end. And I don't mean like you need to know exact scene for scene of how you're going to write it. Some of you might, and that's awesome, but you need to know how you want your readers to feel. The ending for your characters, like, do you want them to end up together? Do you want her to, you know, defeat the enemy? Do you want her to reign over her kingdom? Like, or do you want her to go off, or him to go off and do something totally different? Like, you need to know the ending of your story. In my trilogy that I'm writing right now, I know how it's going to end. I've known how it's going to end since the moment the idea popped into my head. I wrote it down. It is safe, put back in my notebook, and that is what I've been building towards in book 1 and book 2. I know who my characters are going to be from the final page. I know who's going to live and who's going to die. I know my side characters. I know how I'm going to make them interesting enough, which I'm going to do a whole video on side characters, but I already know how I'm going to make them interesting enough to where people want spin-offs for them to. So you don't need every plot detail, but you do need the final destination. You need to know where you're going. It's kind of like when you're going on a road trip. You know where you're going, but you don't know all the memories you're going to make getting there. And all the stops you're going to make, and where you're going to go eat, and what you're going to go shop for. Like, you don't know that. You just know you're going somewhere. So think about that for your characters. Like, you need to know your destination, or you're going to end up writing yourself into so many plot holes and so many things that you're going to have to come back and fix later. Just save yourself the headache, believe me. So before writing, you need to ask yourself these important questions. Who is my main character at the end? If you're writing romance, who does my FMC end up with, or my MMC? What do they or he or she overcome? Are they a better person at the end? Are they miserable? Are they grumpy? What kind of arc do they have? And what kind of ending do you want? Do you want to be happily ever after, bittersweet, emotional? Do you want it to be sad? Do you want it to be disappointing? Like, you don't have to have it happily ever after. You can have your characters go 2 different ways, or, you know, in a romance genre, happily ever after is most common, but if you're not writing romance, then how do you want your story to end, whether it's a thriller or a horror? For me, in my trilogy, I knew how much I wanted to wreck my readers at the end of my trilogy, in a good way, but I did know I wanted to do that. Now, in my Cowboy Romance Interconnected series, I knew that I wanted to wrap the third book, because it's a 3-book series. I wanted to wrap the third book back around to the meaning of book 1, which is dodge those curveballs, as Margaret Mapleson says. And I wanted to wrap it back around full circle. And I think I really did that. I even set up the epilogue to where I can do spin-offs of their kids one day. So that was really important to me. I knew that I wanted to do something showing their kids taking over their family farm and like doing things on the farm like their mom and dads did during their stories. So I knew in that epilogue, when I introduced the kids to my readers, that I could one day do a later down the road, as they're older, books for them. Now, I write fast-paced books. My stories are normally no more than 65, 75K thousand words. Some people like less words than that, or write less words than that. Some people write more than that. That is okay. That does not pertain to this. No matter how, like if you're writing a short story, novella, novel, series, trilogy, whatever, this whole structure can work for you. You just need to be mindful of how many words you're going to have and how fast-paced or how in-depth you want things to be. So your next step is to, if I keep looking down, I have notes, so that's why I'm looking down. Your next step is to build the spine of all 3 books. And what I mean by that is get your piece of paper out and write down, book 1, book 2, book 3, and then like separate them. And then I want you to write down your main plot for all 3 books. Like, what is your characters working towards and doing during those 3 books? If you're writing romance, I want you to write down your relationship arc, which is, is it a wife you, one couple? Is it, there's so many aspects to romance and the tropes you can use. So you need to know ahead of time what lane you're going to be in. And then you need to write down the major turning points of the book. Like what's going to turn the book to go in the direction you need it for the resolution. Framework should look something like this. Each book must answer some type of question from the prior book, at least to give them a little bit of a, okay, this was worth it feeling. Examples of that would be book 1, what is this relationship? What is this world? What is the threat? Book 2, why is this harder than we thought? And book 3, can they survive it? Is this going to be a happily ever after? And then you prove that it can be a happily ever after. Or however you want to end the story. If you want them all to die, then kill them all. I don't know. When you're writing a trilogy, it does not have to be perfect. When you're writing any book, not just a trilogy, any book, any story, it does not have to be perfect. The first draft is always the one that makes you think, am I doing this right? Can I do this? I don't think I can do this. But I have those same thoughts. And then when you go back after a little time away from it, you feel refueled enough to go into the editing process, and you need to polish that draft over and over again until you feel very confident in it. It doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to know where you're going. That is the whole point of this. To write anything, even with not even writing a trilogy, just a book in general, you need to know where you're going. Last thing I will leave you, because writing a trilogy is hard. I will say that it is hard. You're not going to always feel inspired to write. That is normal. Trilogies are built through consistency, not inspiration. My battery died, so I don't know where it cut me off, but there's sometimes I don't want to sit down and write, and I know I need to. So consistency matters more than inspiration, even if it's just a couple words a day. That matters more than not writing at all. But if you're writing a trilogy right now, or just a book in general, if you're writing your first book or your 100th book or your 50th book or your second book, tell me in the comments below. Tell me what genre you're writing. Tell me if you're writing a series. I would love to cheer you on either way. I do have a series I wanted to show y'all that I have just fell in love with. I found it randomly on my Kindle. Read the first book on my Kindle, and I fell in love so much that I had to buy all 3 books. So hang on, I'll show it to you. The covers are absolutely beautiful. Like, so freaking gorgeous. The Witch's Wolf, which it's by Heather Carson. Heather Carson? Yeah. I saw it on my Kindle, like Kindle Unlimited. And so I read it, this book, fell in love with it. It's hilarious. It is a slow burn. And so I had to get on Amazon and buy all 3 books in the series. So it's technically not a trilogy because it's not the same couple in every book, but how book 1 ends, it jumps straight into a cliffhanger for this couple. And then this one also does it for this one. So every book ends on a cliffhanger, but it goes into the next couple. And I really liked how she did that. That was really cool. But it's the Fated Destinies series by Heather Carson, and they are so good. So like I said, I'm not affiliated with the author. I just loved them so much that I figured I would tell y'all about them. They are on Kindle Unlimited. And since we're talking about series and trilogies and writing, I figured it'd be a good time to bring it up. So yeah, thank y'all for watching this video. Happy New Year. I hope y'all are having a great New Year so far. We had a great one, other than my husband got food poisoning on New Year's Day, so that wasn't fun, but he's better now. Thank y'all for being here. Thank you for watching this video. If you like it, give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel. I plan to do a lot more of the how-to videos this year. Of course, I still will have you behind the scenes, I promise. I do have one that I'm actually filming in a couple of days. So for Beckett, because I'm fixing to start working in Beckett later this week. So anyways, before I go off and start rambling, I love y'all. Thank y'all for being here, and I'll see you in the next vlog. Bye, guys.